Hello everybody, welcome along. This is Space Dave Live, episode number 20. So my name is Dave, and with us tonight we've got these people who you have probably seen before. Not much of a crowd, but it's a great little crowd, isn't it? And of course we've got Floyd going hard out with the Lego stuff, carrying on from last week, and hopefully his friend Cullen will be joining us fairly shortly. Over in the background there, we have got Ange, who is our production assistant tonight. So good luck, Ange. Hope it all goes well over there. Let us know if you have any problems. So, shall we have a look at our program to get started, shall we? So it's going to be mostly news tonight, by the looks of it. So Rocket Lab has got some big news today, and we will get to that a little bit later on. In fact, I'm not sure, it just happened today. It was a big announcement today. Please do not let me forget, because I haven't actually got it in my notes. So that's the big thing that we want to talk about tonight, though. We've also got a few rocket launches to talk about, and really a whole bunch of smaller stories that we'll just have a bit of a mention on throughout the night. So that's pretty much what's happening. What we need to do is talk about our competition first of all. So our competition question for tonight is, who will be the next country or organisation to land people on the moon? So you could just say America, China, NASA, whatever, or SpaceX, Blue Origin, whatever you want to say. It's just who you think is going to be the next on the moon, because I think it really is all up in the air right now. So as always, to enter the competition, you need to write in the live chat or Facebook comments comp:/space and then your answer. And remember that you can at this stage only enter the competition if you are watching live. That's Wednesday night from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. New Zealand time. If you're watching the recorded version, unfortunately, you are too late. Now that can be a little bit of a problem on Facebook, because Facebook actually tends to show our show as live if you join in later on. So it can be quite confusing. You may not actually be technically watching it live on Facebook, but on YouTube it's a little bit clearer. So that is the competition tonight. The competition prize tonight was actually donated to us by Janet Yort, who is a fan of the show. She was a prize winner herself not that long ago, and she very generously indeed went into the warehouse and bought us some things to give away as prizes. Thank you, Janet. That was really nice of you. We appreciate that. So we've got these little things to give away. I've just got some others over here. So they're Lego compatible, if you know what I mean. They're not actually genuine Lego, but they are cool little Lego things you can make a little space probe or something like that out of, and we may just chuck another little thing in as well with that. So that is the competition, so you can start entering that anytime you like. Now, what I think about it, was it last week or the week before? I can't remember, but the prize was this periodic table mug, and that went to Tristan and James Illich. And James, I hope you're watching the show tonight. Nice to have you on board. Big shout out to James, fan of the show. So we'll get that prize out to you. I just got your email a few minutes ago, Tristan, so we'll get that prize out to you as soon as possible. So that's it with the competition. We're happy with that. Now, let's just have a quick look in the chat and say hi to everyone. Just make sure everything's working okay. Hello, everyone. Cullen, you did get the prize. Excellent. Thanks for that. Sorry I missed you when we called round at your house, but I'm glad you got your prize there. Jay thinks the Saudi King is going to be first to the moon. Dominic thinks NASA. You guys are fast, eh? You were really fast at entering the competition. A couple of votes for NASA there. Righto, so that's the YouTube comments. Good evening everyone over there on Facebook land as well. Now, Ian, it is your 45th birthday on Saturday. Happy birthday for Saturday, Ian. Awesome, that's a good age, 45. I remember it well. Righto. Yeah, you're right. Facebook is a bit hit and miss with the comments. It's hard work actually keeping an eye on the Facebook comments. It's not nearly as orderly as it is on YouTube. But I know that heaps of you prefer to watch it on Facebook, so all good. Niels, hey Dave, first time watcher here. Welcome along. Welcome to the show. Hope you enjoy it. Let us know if you don't and why. And you like those Lego egg things, Ian. Good stuff. They look really cool. I was really stoked when Janet called in just today to drop them off. That was really nice. So now, what we need to do next is cover a little bit of our housekeeping stuff here at the Space Centre. I think there's a couple of things, but there's really just one thing that I wanted to fairly quickly go over tonight. And that is just the status of the whole show here and what's going on. Now, our Patreon supporters will already know where I'm going with this because I sent them out a video yesterday. So if you haven't seen that, Patreon supporters, go and have a quick look at that. But in a nutshell, what I was saying was that our plan has always been to do the show for about 6 months, first of all, and then evaluate it after 6 months and see how it's going and see if we think this thing has got legs. We're up to about 5 months now, so we're about a month away from evaluation time. And I just want to give you a little bit of a heads up that right now, to be perfectly honest, it's actually not really looking that flash. So it's not all doom and gloom, don't get all sad on me, but we do need to be aware that we are struggling somewhat with our numbers. So over on Facebook, it's kind of going okay. Our numbers are holding reasonably steady at something a bit under 1,000 views per episode. Over on YouTube, it's a little more dire, and we are really struggling to get even 200 views per episode. In fact, the bad news is if you have been watching our YouTube stats over the last 6 weeks, our view count has actually been going steadily down. So that's a bit sad. Not very happy about that. It's not all bad news. We've got some really good metrics that we've been measuring. In particular, our audience retention is exceptional. So people who are watching the show are tending to stick with it for basically the whole show. So that's really good news and actually quite unusual. So that's nice. But unfortunately, we really need subscribers and we need views. If we can't get them up, then we're going to have to rethink things at 6 months. So we've got options. One option might be to just cut down the number of episodes we're doing to try and contain the costs. We may just take a hiatus for a little bit. Don't know what's going to happen. We won't make any decisions yet, but I'm just letting you know that we kind of, to be honest, we do need a little bit of a turnaround because we need to be able to pay our bills and we need views to be able to do that for many reasons. There's a few things that you can do to help us out. Of course, you all know that you can join us on Patreon, so we better give that a quick plug. If you want to give us money, that's the best thing you can do. Kind of, actually. Yeah, sort of. It's one of the best things you can do is just give us money. That helps to keep us going, obviously. But there are other ways that you can help us out because we need eyes. That's what we need. So perhaps you might like to recommend it to friends, local schools, astronomical societies. I know there's a few of you who are from various astronomical societies around the country. If you could help us out there a little bit. Now, one of our Patreon supporters, Hang Yu, I think it was, I hope I've got that right. I need to reply to you about this, suggested that I could send him a poster to put up at the university. Now we do actually have a kind of a little poster like this. It's not a very flash one that I just quickly bashed together a little while ago. Now I didn't quite get as far as making a PDF of this and uploading it, but if anyone does want a poster, just let me know and I'll send you a PDF file of the poster, A4 or A3. So that's one thing you could do to help out to get the word out there. So if there's anything at all you can do to help spread the word, that's what we really need. We really need more people watching the show. People who do come do tend to like it, so I think we're doing something right. And of course, you people are so awesome out there in Chatland, getting involved. So, I mean, it always gives me encouragement when I go and see what's happening in the chat there. So, Rox, yeah, you'll help spread the word. I know everyone else will as much as you can, so thank you very much for that. As I say, I don't want to get all doom and gloom about it. One way or another, we will keep plugging along. But yeah, we just do need a little bit of a turnaround there. Cullen's here. Come and join in, Cullen. Welcome along. Floyd needs a hand with the Lego there. Now, if you're not quite sure what was happening with the Lego over here, last week's competition was how long is it going to take Floyd and Cullen to put this Lego set together? And they are making this spectacular set. Hang on, I'll just show you here. So, what an awesome Lego set this is, eh? It's very cool indeed. It's one of the last things that we're putting together for our Lego display in the end room out there. So the competition was, how long is it going to take them to put that together? And we are timing it, so we'll let you know when they've actually done it, and we will let you know who was the closest. Okay, so that was the competition. A quick mention of Google Hangouts. I don't think we're going to be trying that tonight. Sorry, I just haven't had time to organise it. Again, sorry about that. Maybe if we run out of time, we might give it a quick go. Back to the Patreon thing. We do have a new Patreon supporter this week. So welcome on board, Isaac Mason. Isaac, thank you so much for joining. It came just at the right time. So welcome along. I hope you continue to enjoy the show. One other quick thing I want to mention, about a week ago, just slightly over a week ago, we had this visitor by the name of Boaz Bell, and he had a go on our lunar lander simulator, which is kind of like a game, but you have to land the lunar module on the moon. It's a simple game, but not an easy game. So you have to, well, it's kind of a game or a simulator, and it uses the real physics of trying to land on the moon, and the idea is to get a soft landing as slow as you can. Now, very, very occasionally, someone actually manages to land at 0.1 meters per second or slower, and Boaz managed to land at 0 meters per second. Well done, Boaz, you're the man. So that was a great landing. Doesn't happen very often. Right, so that was that. Now, is that all the housekeeping we had to get through? I think it probably is, which means that we need to get on and talk about some space news. So the first couple of bits of space news, just a couple of catch-ups from previous stories. The first one I don't have any visuals for, but it's about the 30-meter telescope in Hawaii that I kind of talked about a little bit last week. As I said, I'm sort of reluctant to talk about this one because it's a controversial issue, and I don't really know enough about all the background. I don't really understand the cultural landscape in Hawaii enough to really have a firm opinion on this. But if you're not up to speed with this, the 30-meter telescope, which is obviously an enormous telescope that is supposed to be being built on Mauna Kea in Hawaii, has been held back by protesters. Now, as I said, I'm not really sure exactly how much support there is. I mean, amongst Hawaiian residents, there's very strong support for the telescope. My understanding is that amongst people who identify as native Hawaiians, there is still fairly strong support, certainly a majority, but I have not really been able to figure out exactly how strong that support is. Anyway, I just wanted to do a quick update that it is possible that, well, the astronomers are looking at Plan B, and they have actually applied for permission to construct the 30-meter telescope in the Canary Islands instead of Hawaii. So it may be that they actually just give up on the whole Hawaiian project altogether. So we'll certainly give you any updates as we hear anything. They are still referring to it as a Plan B. Obviously, they still want to use Mauna Kea because that is the preferred site, but we will see what happens there. So that was just a quick update there. Another quick update was from the SpaceX launch that we saw last week. That was the CRS-18 launch. Really, well, it's not really much of an update. It's actually just another video that I wanted to show you. So let me just see if I can bring that up. This is a video that Elon tweeted afterwards, and he's just put 4 different views of that landing together. Last week we watched the view that you see on the top left there, which is the camera on the first stage as it's coming back down to land, but you can see the other views simultaneously there are all lined up, so you can sort of see the whole process here together. The bottom right one is the actual landing pad, so you won't see it there right until the end, but you can see it falling down. You can see the landing burn there as it happens. You can see the guiding fins coming out there. You can just sort of see them maneuvering the rocket a little bit as it comes back down. Beautiful shots. I wish he had higher quality. Elon always, the stuff that he puts on Twitter is always just rubbish video quality, but other than that, very cool. And you can see it coming all the way down, and it's just about to come into the view at the bottom right there. There you go. You can see the landing legs deployed right now, just before it lands, There's not much time there. They come out just before it hits the ground there. So there you go. I just thought I would, a few people actually pointed me in the direction of that one, so thanks everyone who sent that link in. I thought that was pretty cool. Now, after the landing with this particular rocket, those landing legs that you saw coming out, they were retracted instead of removed completely. So I think this is the second time they've managed to do that. Previously, SpaceX had to completely remove the landing legs altogether before they took that first stage back to get refurbished. Now they are just retracting it, which is something that they can do much more quickly, and it all helps towards that fast turnaround reusability. So that's just another little incremental step towards getting everything working faster and better and more efficiently. So good work, SpaceX. Keep it up. Now, just quickly on SpaceX, again, I've got no visuals for this, but I wanted to mention the Star Hopper that we've been talking a lot about. We were waiting for the 200-metre test. So we saw the tethered test where it just went up about 20 metres and came back down again. Apparently the 200-metre hop is currently scheduled for about August the 12th. So that's this coming week. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we might have some video for you next week of the 200-metre hop, which will be a big deal indeed. We're still on track to hear from Elon Musk about the whole Starship program. He's going to be doing a presentation, we think sometime around about mid-August, to tell us what's going on with the whole thing. And they have laid some of the groundwork for that project with a filing with the Environmental Protection Agency. There is a link in the show notes if you really want to go over all the details there. So that was what I wanted to say about SpaceX. Now, one more quick update on a previous mission going back a little while ago now. Now this is a bearer sheet one. You remember the Israeli mission to the moon that ended up crash landing? It was almost a success. Well, here's a weird thing. I just saw this not that long ago, just late this afternoon actually, so I didn't have much time to look too much into it. But apparently part of the payload that it had was a bunch of tardigrades. You know what these things are, eh? They're these, is it water bears? That's what they call them as well, eh? Water bears, tardigrades. Anyway, these things can survive practically anything. Actually, if you're a fan of Star Trek Discovery, you might recognise this kind of thing from them as well. But anyway, apparently these things have now been splayed all over the surface of the moon. So I'm not exactly sure what the point of sending these things there was. I guess to see how they would survive in that harsh environment. Don't know what to make of this one, really. What do you guys reckon? Is this really a good idea? Going and sending life forms to the moon? Phew, I don't know. I mean, it kind of seems a little bit contrary to the planetary protection ideal. Okay, so the moon's not a planet, but you know what I mean. Yeah, I don't know. It's a very strange one, really. But the idea that they've gone and, because these things can survive just about anything, so there's a very good chance that they're actually alive on the moon. So, yeah, I don't know. Don't know how to feel about that one. Can't say I can get very excited about it. But anyway, I'd be interested to hear if you guys have got any comments at all about that one. So anyway, that was just a quick mention of that. That was bearer sheet. So what I want to do now is I want to talk about rocket launches. Now, each week we tend to talk a little bit about launches that are coming up or that have just been, and each week someone mentions some rocket launch that I haven't mentioned. So what I thought would be an idea, and I'm just going to give this a try, is actually each week to try and keep a record of all the main rocket launches that are happening from around the world. As much as anything, this is to help keep it all in line for me so I can remember what's going on. And I thought it might be an idea each week to just go have a quick run through of what exactly has been happening and is going on. Now, I have said before that most rocket launches, to be honest, aren't actually that interesting. Most rocket launches tend to be fairly mundane with well-established launch vehicles, and they're just launching communication satellites and things like that. At the same time, it is quite neat to know what's going on and how often rockets are launched, and that sort of thing. So if we go over these, we'll just have a quick mention of these ones here. This includes ones that have happened in the last week and the main ones that are coming up for the rest of this month. So there's a few Russian ones in there which we have been neglecting a little bit lately, so I'm going to try and catch up on that. So the Soyuz rocket launched a Progress cargo freighter to the International Space Station. Payload wasn't that interesting. It was just resupplies, you know, food and water and clothing and stuff like that for the International Space Station. But this particular launch did manage to set a speed record to the space station. They managed to get there in 3 hours and 19 minutes. So when you launch to the space station, it can take anything from a few hours to a few days to get to the space station, depending on your launch vehicle and the mission profile. But there we go, we now have a new record of 3 hours and 19 minutes to get from Earth to the space station. There's a few of these were just communication satellites. So Proton, another Russian launch vehicle. That was just a communication satellite, high-speed internet and other services, and that was for a mix of commercial, domestic and military use, so it was a bit of a mixture there. The Ariane 5, that is a European Space Agency rocket. And again, that was just launching communication satellites for Africa, Europe, the Middle East, Asia and the Indian Ocean region. So that was that one. Now the next one, the Falcon 9 one, now that was just this morning. Gosh, seems like ages ago. It was just this morning that one launched. So that went very well. Now that's a communication satellite in itself, not that interesting, but that was for services again in Africa, the Middle East and Europe. But perhaps one interesting thing about this is that the customer here for SpaceX, who has the communication satellite, they have been a previous customer of SpaceX, but the last time they were a customer for SpaceX was back in 2016 with their Amos 6, I think it was. Amos 6, yep. So that was, as I say, back in 2016, and that was this one here. So we're going back to 2016. Now what you're looking at here is actually just a static fire test. So that's not actually a launch attempt. What they're doing here is they've just got everything, the payload is already in the fairing there at the top. It's all getting ready for launch, but they are just testing everything out to make sure it works. And this is what happened. Yeah, oops, all right. So it didn't go very well. So that was the last time that this company called Spacecom paid to have something on a SpaceX vehicle. As you can imagine, they weren't stoked with that result. They lost a very expensive satellite, and it's not just the direct cost of losing the satellite. Obviously that affects your business a lot when you're expecting to get a satellite up there and instead it's in pieces all over the ground. So this is Spacecom's first attempt to get back with SpaceX and get something else up into space. So SpaceX really needed that one to go well. Obviously it would have been a severe embarrassment if that mission had gone south again. But fortunately it went really well. There's no need to show you the launch because it was just a straightforward launch. But with that launch, because they were launching into a geostationary orbit, which is much further out from the Earth than the low Earth orbit, they needed all the fuel on their booster to get into that orbit. So they are not attempting, or they did not attempt to recover the booster from that one. So there was no landing. What else did I want to say about that? The booster that they had and that they used this morning had flown twice before, so it was a third flight for that booster, so that's nice. And they did attempt to recover the fairing. And now I don't know what happened there. If anyone knows, could you post a comment in there? I don't know if they managed to capture the fairing or not. So that's the covering bit that covers the payload and it falls back down, and that's the one where they try and catch it in the net. We've talked about that before. So they have a boat out at sea and they try and catch this fairing in the net. It's awesome to watch. Now, there was one other thing I wanted to say about that. Oh yes, SpaceX no longer puts their payloads on the rocket when they're doing a static fire test. They decided after that Amos 6 one that was a bad idea to do that, an unnecessary risk. So they don't do that anymore. Right now, there was one other Russian launch that I don't actually think it's gone yet. That is the Rocket one, which is that was just it's a mapping satellite, that's what it was. Yep, so kind of a science one, Earth monitoring and a mapping satellite, another Russian one. And I believe that is due to launch any time now, tonight actually, I think. So that's all the recent launches. We've got some up, hang on, I'll tell you what, before we move on, let's just go and have a quick look at how you guys are doing on the Lego there. Looks like we're getting a little bit of progress out there. You're going to be pushing it. You're not so sure, Floyd. I think you're going to have to step up your game if you want to get it done tonight. But we thought that last week, didn't we? We don't think it's going to get done within these couple of episodes, but we'll see how it goes throughout the evening. Right, we've got some upcoming launches. Let's quickly talk about them. So the next one will be the Atlas 5, looks like tomorrow. Oh, these are all New Zealand times, by the way. So Atlas 5 is owned by the United Launch Alliance, which is an alliance between Boeing and Lockheed Martin. And so that together they've got this company called the United Launch Alliance, and that is a military communications satellite satellite that they are launching tomorrow. Then on Saturday, Electron. Hopefully you guys all know that that is Rocket Lab's launch vehicle, Electron, and that's going on Saturday. So we're looking forward to that. Good luck to the team from Rocket Lab, and that mission is called Look Ma No Hands. Now, one of these days, I'm going to do a rant about rocket names because most rocket companies have the lamest names for their missions, and some really dumb ones actually, but I love what Rocket Lab does with theirs. They've always got interesting names for their launches. Now, they've all got stories behind them, but I have to confess I don't know what Look Ma No Hands is about. So I'm sure some of you out there do, so let me know if you know what that one is all about. Now, we are going to be talking about Rocket Lab a little bit later on with their big news that came out today. But anyway, all the best for your launch on Saturday, guys. So is this number 8? I think this is launch number 8, a commercial launch for you guys. So then a little bit later on, we've got a Soyuz mission to the International Space Station. Now that one's a test mission. I don't know too much about this. I believe that they are testing a new configuration for the Soyuz spacecraft. But we'll catch up with that one a little bit later on because it does sound a little bit interesting. And then finally, we've got a Delta IV rocket, which is also a United Launch Alliance vehicle, and they are launching a GPS satellite. So that kind of gives you a little bit of a view of what you might expect in a typical month for rocket launches around the world. Down the bottom there, I've got a couple to be determined. The Long March is the Chinese rocket. And Launcher 1, that is the Virgin Orbit one that we've talked about. Do you remember a little while ago we saw the drop test? So this is the one that goes up on a plane. The rocket is underneath the plane. It flies very high up in the sky. The rocket drops off the bottom of the plane and then takes off into orbit. And we saw the drop test, where just the part where they just drop it, and they are looking at doing their inaugural flight fairly soon. So that'll be quite exciting too. So those guys, really in a way, they are competition for Rocket Lab. They're in the same market of launching very small satellites and payloads into space. So that one's quite exciting. I'm looking forward to seeing how that one goes. All right, let's keep moving along here. Shall we? Hang on, sorry, let's just have a quick look in the chats before we move on with some other news there. So I've got to scroll back up here to see where we're up to. Ange, hang on a sec. We'll get to you, Ange. Let's come over there. What have you got over there?
Okay, to save you going way back to the top, Jay Harris had a question asking how many spaceports are there. I see Armenia has a decent one.
Really?
So,
do they?
So.
Okay, I did not know. How many spaceports are there? Look, honestly, I have absolutely no idea. It was Jay, was it, that had that question? Yeah. Okay, thanks Jay for that one. I wonder if anyone's got a good idea that could let me know. Let's see. Well, there's several in the States, including Rocket Lab's new one that they are building now. European Space Agency have got one in French Guiana. The Russians have got at least 3, including their new one. One in New Zealand, of course. Australia has got one that they're trying. China, there's that one in the Gobi Desert. Oh, what other ones am I missing? Can't think. Brazil has got at least one launch complex. It hasn't gone very well for them. The Indians, of course. Thank you, Alan. The Indians. Said China. Japan. Where do they launch from in Japan? That's a good one. Sorry to get sidetracked, but I see that we're getting these messages retracted again. I wish I knew what was going on there. We do have an anti-spam filter, but I'm sure you guys aren't trying to spam us. So look, if anyone's got any idea why some of our messages on YouTube are being retracted, or the other thing is that we do have slow mode on, so you can't post, I think, within about 30 seconds, but that doesn't look like the problem either. So sorry guys, I wish I knew what was going on there. Okay, so we happy with that, Ange? There's nothing else? Oh, hang on.
Black Diamonds just said there are 29.
29? That's a pretty good specific answer, Black Diamond. Thank you very much for that. Cool. There you go, 29. So this is what I love about the show, because we've got heaps of really knowledgeable people, and of course people who just know how to use Google really quickly. So you guys are a really important part of all of this to help answer all these questions. So thanks everyone. Shall we keep moving on with some other news? I'm sure there's actually quite a bit to still talk about yet. So, next news. NASA has announced, let's go and we'll bring this one up. NASA announces US industry partnerships to advance Moon-Mars technology. Now, this is a fascinating link. The link is in the show notes. But what's happened is that NASA has introduced there's 13 companies here, and I think about 19 different projects that they are working on. So what they're doing is NASA has allocated a whole lot of money to all these different companies to investigate and develop various new techniques and things to help with the whole Moon and Mars thing. There's too many to talk about here. There's a whole lot of stuff, but you can just sort of see all these different companies as we go down here and what they're going to do and who they're going to be working with and what sort of things that they're going to be developing. So there's advanced materials such as aerogel technologies, and I mean you can see for yourself there entry, descent and landing techniques and things. Blue Origin is mentioned there, so I think they've got a couple of things in here. They'll be really happy. So they're working on their fuel cell for their Blue Moon lander that we've talked a fair bit about. So quite a lot going on here actually. So a few companies getting their finger in the pie there. And some quite exciting stuff when you read through all of this. It's really cool. Now, one of them is down here. SpaceX will work with Glenn and Marshall, that's a couple of NASA facilities, to advance technology needed to transfer propellant in orbit, an important step in the development of the company's Starship space vehicle. So transferring propellant in orbit, they're talking about refueling in space. That's basically what that's about. But I think the cool thing here is NASA is saying the important step in the development of the company's Starship space vehicle. As far as I'm aware, that is the first time that NASA has officially even acknowledged the existence of the Starship program. So that's all to do with the Star Hopper and that whole thing that we've been talking about. So NASA is now saying, yes, we acknowledge that exists and we are going to be working with SpaceX to get that happening. So NASA has been using SpaceX's Falcon 9 and have been quite happy with the development of the Falcon Heavy, but just have sort of avoided even talking about the Starship program. So I think that's actually quite significant that NASA is talking about SpaceX's Starship. We had a sort of a semi-official thing recently where one of the NASA employees had said that if SpaceX does manage to get to the moon on Starship before NASA does, that NASA would be happy to partner with them. But whether or not that actually happens, who knows? He certainly wasn't optimistic. And that's part of the competition tonight. Do you think SpaceX would get there first or NASA? We'll see. So anyway, if you're interested in all this stuff, definitely go and check out that link because there's a whole bunch of interesting stuff going on there. Right, still with NASA. This is just kind of a little interest story. This is actually going back to, must have been about March, I think. NASA TV and SpaceX have earned an Emmy nomination for their coverage of the Demo 1 mission. I thought this was really neat. So it's nothing really to do with space itself, but this was the Demo 1 mission. Now, if you may remember, those of you who've been with us for a while, this same mission was actually our first attempt at doing a proper live stream here. That was our first sort of semi-official test before Space Dave Live episode number 1. We just needed something to test it on, so we covered this same mission at the same time that this was. NASA got nominated for an Emmy for it. As far as I'm aware, we didn't get nominated for an Emmy for our coverage, although I haven't checked my mail, so there could be some good news there. But I think that's really cool because honestly, when I first started watching NASA TV many years ago, it was absolute rubbish. It was shocking. But over the years, they've really lifted their game, and NASA TV is very cool now. It's well worth going and checking out. So all the best to NASA and SpaceX in the Emmys. Not quite sure when that is, but wouldn't it be neat to see something like this get an Emmy award and sort of get mainstream recognition? I think that would be very cool. So all the best to you guys for that. Right, that was that. Oh no, sorry, one more quick thing. That was the mission, that Demo 1 mission was the one with Ripley on it. So it was SpaceX demonstrating their Crew Dragon, that's the one that's supposed to have people in it, getting to the space station and back, and that's the one that had Ripley, the dummy, in it. And it also had this thing in it. You remember this? The plushy toy, the little Earth. This was just it's a commercial product, and SpaceX just went and bought one of these online, and of course straight after that mission they completely sold out. Well, they're back in stock, so if you want to get one now, I think I've got the link in the show notes there, so you can now go and buy them. I'd like one. Hint, hint. Anyway, so there you go, if you want to go and buy one of them. Right, let's keep moving along. So LightSail 2 that we've been keeping a little bit of an eye on, this is the Planetary Society's mission to have a spacecraft powered by a solar sail. Very cool mission by a very cool organisation. It's a non-profit organisation, doesn't have any government affiliation or anything. It's just funded by space enthusiasts from around the world. I've been a member for many years. It's a good organisation to support. Their mission is going from strength to strength. So last week we reported that they had unfurled their sail, and that all went really well. Since then they have been steadily raising their orbit, and I think they've raised it a couple or a few kilometres by now. So they have done enough to prove that this spaceship is being propelled by light from the sun. So just fantastic news. Really, really pleased for these guys. As you know, I do have a little bit of a reservation about the light pollution, if you like, or the affecting the night sky. If we had too many of these things in the sky, might be a little bit of an issue. But in the meantime, it is such a cool mission. There's a whole bunch of images down there if you're interested in going and checking that out. So well done to the Planetary Society. Okay, so that was that one. Now the next one, yes, it is this one here. This is an Australian company called Gilmore Space. This is another company that appears to be looking to be in competition with Rocket Lab, perhaps even more so than Virgin Orbit, not really sure, but the same kind of thing. Privately funded with venture capital, a company that is attempting to set up rockets for the small satellite market. So not going so well for them. In fact, they have just had a test that did not work. So they had an anomaly, that word that we hate. So, there's a lot of noise happening over there. How's everything going, guys, on the Lego? Oh, we're on to the next stage. Oh, it's looking good. I can see a crawler or something over there. Now we're making some progress. Now we're getting there. Awesome. Anyway, the poor old people from Gilmore Space had a little bit of a setback over there. I don't really know anything about this company. I'm looking forward to hearing more about it. But in the meantime, not looking so flash for them. But we will get back to them in the future. So, yeah, that's all we want to say about that. The next one, I don't have any visuals for, just a quick mention of this story. Actually, I should have said something about this before. When a rocket goes wrong, rocket launches are almost always insured. So if you do get an anomaly like we saw with that Amos 6 one before, there is insurance. As you can imagine, the insurance is insanely expensive. So, and you can choose whether or not to insure your payload, of course. But it is quite a big issue in the space industry about how you go about insuring vehicles and payloads. But I just heard that a big insurance company, a Swiss company, I think called RE, I think I've just got that right, RE, but they have announced that they are no longer going to be insuring space payloads due to bad results of recent years and unsustainable premium rates. So, I hope that's not a sign of things to come, because that being able to insure your payload is a big part of the whole space industry, really. It would really shake things up if the insurers started getting cold feet and pulling out. So, as I say, I hope that's not a sign of things to come, but I thought that was worth a quick mention. Righto, next story is actually not so much directly to do with space, but science in general, and I really, really wanted to point this one out because I was surprised and heartened by this one. Apparently, according to some recent research, I was talking about trust and mistrust in Americans' view of scientific experts. Now, the guts of this story is that trust in scientists in America seems to be on the increase. Well, that's good news, because we sort of seem to be in this era of generally reducing trust in science results, scientists. especially when it comes to climate change and certain other things that people don't really want to hear about. So I thought it was really nice that it actually seems that people are starting to trust scientists more. What does it say here? 6 in 10 Americans say scientists should play an active role in policy debates about scientific issues. Now, you could look at that and say, well, should scientists play a role in policy debates about scientific issues? Well, really, 60% support for that idea is actually not that flash, is it, really? I mean, why would you not have scientists involved in policy debates about scientific issues? It's bizarre that even 1 in 10 people would think that that's not a good idea. But given the sort of general climate, I actually think the fact that it's on the improve is really encouraging. So I hope that is a sign of what's really happening and not just an anomaly. So anyway, I thought that was worth a mention as well. Right, let's keep moving along here. This is a quick story about China's ambitions around the moon at the moment. There's not much of a story here, but one of China's lunar orbiters, they have deliberately crashed it into the moon. So it was a scientific mission, but pretty much a test mission, really, and it had basically just come to the end of its life. It was part of that whole mission that went up there recently with the orbiter and the rover and everything. So just a quick note that that's come to the end of its life, and everything seems to have gone pretty successfully with that one. Interestingly, they said they crashed it into the moon to reduce orbital debris around the moon, which is nice, but I guess on the other hand, they are making moon debris instead of orbital debris. That's something that people comment on a fair bit, dumping rubbish on other celestial bodies. It doesn't really bother me too much, to be perfectly honest, because the moon's a pretty big place. There's not really much on it, and I think the main thing for me is that the moon, Mars, anywhere we drop stuff like this, eventually someone is going to recover it, and they're probably going to want to use it and recycle and stuff. So. But anyway, it is something that we want to think about and keep an eye on in the future. We don't want to just be dumping too much rubbish all over the solar system. We can't really at the moment. That's one of the other things, is that we are kind of just limited by our technology and our finances. We can't just fill the solar system up with rubbish yet, but it's definitely a thing that we need to be thinking about in the future. Moving out a little bit further to Mars. Mars is the Mars 2020 rover, which actually doesn't have a name like Curiosity or anything yet. They still have not got their sort of personal name for it yet. They are going to be running a competition, but I think the competition is just going to be limited to American schools, unfortunately. Fair enough, it's an American mission, but that is getting fueled up at the moment. So it's one step closer to launch. Now, the fuel that they use for this kind of mission, the same as what they did with Curiosity, is actually an RTG, or radioisotope thermoelectric generator. It's a kind of nuclear power. It's not the kind of nuclear power that most people would think of. Basically, you've got just a little bit of radioactive material that generates heat, and from that heat you make electricity, and eventually you won't be able to get enough heat out of it anymore. So it's not really polluting anything. It's really very safe. I don't think there's anything that you really need to worry too much about with this particular fuel. But it's got an interesting history. The plutonium, the type of plutonium that they use for these missions, it sort of went out of favour for quite a long time, and then they didn't have enough of it. But now they are getting back into it a little bit. So anyway, that's just one more step along the road for Mars 2020. And now that is all the stuff with our solar system. There's a couple of things that we're going to talk about when we move a little bit further out. Let's just have a quick look in the chats. Ange, was there anything in the chats that you really wanted to talk about? I see you're busy with the competition there. There wasn't anything else, was there? Okay, let's just have so let's just have a quick squiz through here.
Competition question.
Oh, the competition question. Thank you for that, Ange. Yes, I had forgot to put that in my notes, actually. We should definitely be doing that from time to time. The competition question. Who will be the next country or organisation to land people on the moon? Could be NASA, could be SpaceX, could be China. Are there any other contenders? Anyway, tell us who you think it's going to be. Make sure you write comp and put your answer in there. And the prize again for tonight is one of these cool little Lego compatible space probes or something, very kindly donated by Janet. Thank you very much, Janet, for that. So where were we? We're just having a quick look in the chats. Oh, right. Robo Music plus air launch anywhere in the world. I didn't even think about that, did I? We were just talking about Launcher 1. So when we're talking about how many launch facilities there are around the world, of course, there's that new one in Cornwall that they're looking at doing in the UK. And so basically anywhere that can launch one of those planes would become a launch facility, wouldn't it? How many spaceports sounds like the final question on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Righto, so I'll just have a quick look through here. Luke thinks the Russians are in with a shot there. Tony is talking about the tardigrades, water bear or moss piglet. I haven't heard that one, thanks Tony. Now to be called lunar bears and moon pigs. Awesome, moon pigs, love it, yep. Right, so Dominic, you'd like a poster. So anyone who wants a poster, if you can drop me an email, I haven't got the address there, info@spacecentre.nz, info@spacecentre.nz, or if you want to check back in next week, I'll put a link up on our website. Okay, oh, Andrew's already answered that one. So bear with me while I just whiz through a few more of these. Oh, excuse me. That was no good. I think I'm back. Bear with me while I just read for a sec. John's offering to do something after the show. Look, unfortunately, after the show was usually not a great time for us. Thank you anyway for that. But we will be back in touch with your idea about doing a Kahoot quiz. So for those of you who missed that, John has suggested using Kahoot to do a quiz about space, which I think is a great idea. Very cool idea. Alan's suggesting that we ask various groups to put links on their club website. That's a good idea, Alan. Thank you. I know you've already been really helpful with your Astronomical Society down in Foxton. Horowhenua, isn't it, that you're with, Alan? Thank you for that. Okay, righto, let's get back to some more news, shall we? Where did we get up to? We were talking about the Mars 2020. I want to talk a little bit further out now to talk about our galaxy. This is a cool story, this one. Fascinating, actually. So the website that we're looking at here, let me just remind myself what's going on here. Oh, no, I can't see my notes here. It's the University of Warsaw anyway. Now, you may have seen this one in the news, possibly. The research coming out of this university has basically been looking at the shape of our galaxy. Now, if we scroll down here a little bit, there's a lot of stuff on this page. The link's in the show notes if you want all the details. It's a university website. It's not the most beautifully laid out website that you've ever seen, but there's some fascinating information in here. So that's a view looking out to the Milky Way from Earth. Now, what you're seeing there, all those yellow plot points on there are Cepheid variable stars. We've talked about them recently. Remember when we've been talking about the cosmic distance ladder and measuring how far away things are in space? And I said about how we use things called standard candles, which is a type of star. If you know how bright that star is if you were right next to it, and you can measure it here from Earth, how bright it appears to be to us from Earth, then you can work out how far away it is. What they've been doing is they've been measuring a whole bunch of a particular type of Cepheid variable in our galaxy, to try and figure out the shape of our galaxy. And what we're looking at there, you can actually, I wonder if there's this is a better one. So this is a side view of our galaxy. So the Milky Way galaxy is a spiral galaxy. It's more or less a disc shape, and this is looking at it side on. And you can see from that, it's not actually a completely flat disc. It's actually a bit flayed. So this actually follows on from some previous research that was just released earlier this year by NASA using completely different techniques, and I think this was from the Wide Field Infrared Survey Explorer. I think I've got that right. So both of these lines of research have been coming to the same sort of conclusion, that it's this kind of funny shape at our galaxy, which I think is really cool. It's really awesome stuff. What else? Yes, here's a view looking down on the Milky Way galaxy. And so you can see that they've mapped all these Cepheid variable stars and basically calculated all the positions and distances much more accurately, and that is giving us a better idea of the shape and layout of our galaxy. Now, interestingly, we've got, you saw a simulation there versus the observations, so that's another really good way to see if you're on the right track. If you program everything you think that is happening into a computer and run a simulation, and that comes out giving you more or less what you actually see, then that's good evidence that your thinking is correct. What else have we got down here? Just photos of the team and everything there. So this is fantastic research. I just love this sort of stuff. It's so cool to be learning about how our galaxy works and the shape of it and everything. Now this kind of goes back a little bit to how do we know all of this stuff, and a particular thing about the shape of our galaxy. I get asked this all the time. Now when I'm doing a talk about space, I use this image here a lot. This is on the right there, the main image is a computer-generated sort of image of what our galaxy would look like if you were looking down on it. The one on the left there, that's actually a real photo of another spiral galaxy that we think is very similar to the Milky Way. So see, that's what we had assumed that the Milky Way would look like side on, something like that. But this new research is saying that actually it's kind of a little bit splayed, not quite like that. But this image on the right, of course, we don't have any actual photos of the Milky Way galaxy because it's too far to send any kind of spacecraft out of our galaxy to take a photo looking back at the galaxy. So we've had to try and put together a picture of the shape and layout of our galaxy from being stuck inside it. And of course the way you do that is you measure the distances and directions to all the different stars that you can, and you build up a model of how it would look from the outside. Of course there are problems with that. For example, if you look at us down here, if we look towards the center of the galaxy, well, first of all, there's a lot of dust and gas between us and the center of the galaxy, so certainly in visible light we can't actually really see the center of the galaxy very well at all. We can use infrared and other wavelengths to be able to get a picture of what's in the middle of the galaxy there, but everything that's sort of up here, that whole part over there, we can't really see really at all, so we're kind of just filling in the gaps there. So this comes back to that whole idea of how we know this stuff, because whenever I show someone this picture, inevitably someone will say, how do you know that? How do you know what the shape of our galaxy is if you can't actually see it? So these things, it's an incremental thing, you see. So we build up this picture over time. So this one is one that I've been using for a few years now. It was put out by NASA. But if you go back looking at images of our galaxies over the years, if you find a picture of the Milky Way from 20 or 30 years ago, it probably looks quite different to this. And it used to be thought that we were much further. In fact, a lot of the old images of the Milky Way had us right out about here. And these spiral arms weren't the same as we see them now. So it's an evolving image. I think we're pretty much on the right track. We're starting to be a bit more confident with it now, but it's not set in stone. It's a thing that we are sort of reasonably confident about. We're getting more confident as time goes on, and with this latest research, that's a big help towards really pinning down exactly what the shape of our galaxy is, and I just think that's so exciting. I think it's really, really cool stuff. The University of Warsaw, well done on that research. Very cool stuff. Righto, we're getting near the end of our time, so let's just quickly whiz through another couple of things. Scientists discover a new type of pulsating star. These last couple of stories that I've got for you here, I've only just got hold of them and really just skimmed them, so I can't really tell you much about them. In fact, I might just, because we're getting near the end of our time, I might just actually leave that to you to go and have a look at if you want to. But pulsating stars, what can I say about them? It's quite common for stars to pulsate or vary in their brightness one way or another. Even our own sun does it to a very small extent. Cepheid variables that we were talking about before, those are stars that pulsate their brightness in a predictable way. None of these are to be confused with pulsars, which is a kind of rapidly rotating neutron star, but I guess you could say that that is pulsating as well. But to discover a new type of star there is certainly very exciting. Right, I'm just going to wrap up the rest of this news because I want to get onto the competition and see how the boys are going with the Lego there. What was this one? Oh, this is not actually really a news story, but it's kind of a little bit, well, it's relevant to some of the stuff we've been talking about recently. Again, lots to do with the distance to things out there in the galaxy, to do with the cosmic distance ladder, which is also related to the expansion of the universe. I won't go into any more right now, but if you've been following the show, you'll know that we've been talking a little bit about the sort of general uncertainty and where we are at with understanding how the universe is expanding and how it may have been expanding in the past and in the future, possibly at different rates. This article is just quite a good summary of all the different options. That graphic that you're looking at there in a nutshell is talking about the three main different possibilities about what's going to happen in the future, and it also mentions the thank you. The initial acceleration, deceleration, and we appear to be in an accelerating phase again. So it's possible that the universe could keep on expanding and expand more and more and more, and that's known as the Big Rip. Or the Big Crunch would be the opposite, where it expands to a certain point, but then all starts falling back in on itself again. Anyway, I'm going to leave that to you. Wendy has just reminded me that I haven't talked about Rocket Lab. Has anyone else been on my case about that? Because you should be. This is your guys' job to make sure I am not missing anything out. Now, we need to talk about this, so let's just abandon anything else that we were going to be talking about. I don't think there was really anything there that we necessarily needed to talk about. Now, earlier today, this is the big news today. Rocket Lab, Peter Beck from Rocket Lab, the CEO, made a big announcement. It was on live earlier today, and I watched it live, and the big news from Rocket Lab is that their Electron vehicle is going reusable. Well, that's big news. So let's just talk about that. Now, look, I'm so sorry that I haven't got any visuals or anything for this ready. I didn't even get a chance to download the bloomin' video. I'll do that next week because Peter showed a short video, sort of a mock-up of how he's expecting this to work. So it's a lot of noise going on there again, guys. Hang on, let's just quickly check in with the Lego guys. Oh my goodness, look at this. Wow, we've definitely got some big progress there. We'll come back to you guys very shortly on that. Anyway, so Rocket Lab, Peter Beck has previously sworn black and blue that he would never bother trying to make the Electron rocket reusable because it's quite a different kind of vehicle to SpaceX's vehicle, either the Falcon or the Starship or anything else. And he has basically said that it wasn't practical, it wasn't financially realistic to do it, and so that they were always going to be expendable. However, they have figured out a way that they think that they can make the Electron reusable. Now, from memory, it basically just comes back down with a parachute and gets caught by a helicopter. It's just so cool. I wish I had the video for it. I'm sorry I ran out of time. That's just the nature of my life. But we will get back to it next week. And I haven't even seen anyone else's reaction to it at all. I've been flat out all afternoon since the show, actually. So I haven't even seen what anyone else has said about it. I know Tim Dodd, the Everyday Astronaut, was restreaming it live. I'm sure he had some interesting things to say. But see, I've always had, I'm a big fan of Rocket Lab, right? No reservations, just love it. Actually, 2 reservations. Not really reservations, but the 2 things that, if anything, has sort of been little niggles for me with Rocket Lab. One of them is how much they would have to be relying on the US military as a customer. I think that's always a thing that's made me just a little uncomfortable, and if nothing else, a little bit worrying how New Zealanders would react if Rocket Lab ended up being seen as a pawn of the US military. I don't think that would be good for Rocket Lab if that was the case. Anyway, that's a whole other story. But the other thing is the reusability thing. Now, reusable rockets are just all the rage. Almost every agency in the world is looking at reusability. Even the Russians, the European Space Agency that have sort of resisted reusability, they are at least talking about it and acknowledging it as the way of the future. NASA is not making their SLS reusable, but that's a whole different story, and that's entirely political. But they are talking about reusability. They are now happy to use SpaceX's reused, previously flown vehicles. It's just the way of the future. And it's been a little bit of a niggling bother for me that in the longer term future, I would hate to see Rocket Lab being perceived as way behind the times, and because of course Rocket Lab is looking at launching about once a week. Now, I can imagine the public perception when they realise that Rocket Lab is dropping one of these rockets into the ocean every week. It's not a good look, hey? And public perception is important, as is the actual dropping these things in the ocean all the time, or even if they are bringing them back, to be fair, just the sort of wastefulness of it all. And I'm just absolutely stoked that Rocket Lab is talking about reusing it. It's really innovative. The way they are talking about it is so impressive that they've had a turnaround like this. So. It's almost 8 o'clock. I was just thinking I might be able to go and hunt down that video. I wonder if there is any chance that we could do that. Tell you what, Ange, how is everything going on the competition over there? Are we kind of ready to go with the competition?
Yep, I think so. I'm up to date, so
okay, then.
If you want to draw it now.
Tell you what, just hang fire on that for just 1 sec. We'll be with you in just a moment. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go to YouTube. And I'm going to quickly see if I can find Rocket Labs. Hang on. Let's watch. Oh, that's Tim Dodd. Yes, that's his restreaming. I see that there. Just bear with me a sec, folks, because I really would like to show you this quick video if I can find it in time. Look, magic, we've got it. So if we go over to YouTube, Rocket Lab is going reusable. Let's see if. Yeah, here we go. I've just had a thought. I'm going to turn the music down there because music is one of the areas that we keep getting stung with the copyright issues. So it's probably too late now. If we're going to get stung, we're going to get stung. But anyway, look at this. Isn't this beautiful? Wow, it was so exciting watching the presentation because everyone in the live chat was speculating about what it could be about, and then Peter mentioned something about the printing press and said something about, imagine if you had to make a new printing press every time you wanted to print something. And as soon as he said that, it's like obvious, he's talking about reusability. That's kind of almost a line from Elon Musk. So, excuse me, it was just so cool and just so exciting, absolutely stoked for Rocket Lab. Not sure, to be honest, when this is going to be happening, but Peter did, he really pointed out that they don't announce things until they're really confident that it's happening. So watch the space, I suppose, and we'll see what's going to be happening very soon. Right, it is 8 o'clock, so we need to quickly have a look in the chat. Casey, what? No rant. Sorry, not this week, Casey. I had an idea before, didn't I, about the rant? Oh no, the rocket names. I'll try and see if I can come up with a rant for next week about the rocket names. Now, Kbolt44, YouTube doesn't like notifying me when Space Dave is live. Well, that's no good. I know there's several things you need to do. Now, this is a good thing. Everyone should do this. To get notifications, you actually have to, you click the bell icon, but so you need to be subscribed, I think. You need to click the bell icon as well, but you also have to have notifications set up properly for your own account. I know it's a little bit of a drama. You've really got to try and convince YouTube that yes, I really do want this notification. So you've got to have notifications in general set up properly, as well as the bell icon specific notifications for our show. So hopefully that helps. Now, what I think about it, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do. I don't want to go back to our doom and gloom of the earlier in the show, but one of the things that we are lacking is subscribers. If you've got less than 1,000 subscribers, you're not even eligible to apply to make money out of YouTube. But also there are other things that you can't do. Like I can't post notes on YouTube to let people know what's happening because I have less than 1,000 subscribers. So it really would be helpful if we could get up to that 1,000 mark. That would be very cool. So if you haven't subscribed, please do so. Right, so let's see. I think that's about all I'm going to try and tackle with the comments tonight. Now, so let's quickly check on with the guys on the Lego there. Oh my goodness!
So close.
Oh, that's so close. I tell you what, shall we do the competition? These guys are getting stressed, aren't they? They're getting more stressed than I do just 5 minutes before the show. Righto, Ange, what we need you to do is bring the astronaut helmet over and we will get someone to draw it. Wendy, do you want to do the draw tonight? And thank you so much, Wendy, for reminding me about Rocket Lab. I would have been gutted beyond belief if we hadn't talked about that tonight. So,
Don't pull your own name.
oh yeah, true, don't pull your own name out. Righto, so well, let's go and Ange, you can tell us who has won the prize tonight.
Okay, so the lucky winner tonight is Vienna Bellhouse.
Oh, Vienna, well done, Vienna. I'm sure you'll be stoked with that. So have we still got your address? I'm not sure. Might pay to just drop us a quick line and let us know your address if we, just in case we haven't got it. Now, I'm thinking out there, look, what's it? Oh, look, it's 8:05. You guys just bear with me for a quick sec. I'm going to go out here and have a look at the Lego and see how it's going. So what I need to do is I'm going to come around here. This should all still work. My microphone should still be working okay. Is it all right, guys, if I just pick this up and show it to the camera? So this is the crawler part of it. That is looking really cool, isn't it? Wow, look at that thing. Outstanding. What else have we got here? So we've got a whole lot of structure over here. We've got a little launch tower. We've got this little vehicle here. All this stuff and the actual rocket. Can we take this for now? Yeah. Okay, so this is how the rocket is looking. Now this one is inspired by the NASA Mars mission. So it's not really supposed to be perfect or anything. It's not the SLS or anything. But this is part of that whole Lego series that came out not that long ago, inspired by various NASA missions. So we've got some stuff already that was inspired by the moon missions. What else? I can't quite remember. But anyway, this is looking really good. Do you reckon you can finish it the next, how long, Cullen, do you reckon it's going to take you to finish? Couple of minutes?
Yeah, I think so.
I think we are so close that I'm actually going to hang in there. So you guys just bear with us. Because these guys have put in such a spectacular effort. Let's just have a quick look at the chat while we wait for them. Vienna, I hope you're watching tonight, Vienna. Wendy, are you guys watching tonight? Let us know if you are. Oh, of course you are. You entered the competition. Yeah, here we go. There's your entry there. Vienna thinks it will be NASA, so that was your entry. Thanks, Vienna. What was that, Alan? Sorry? China. You reckon China? China's not a bad bet. Yeah, it's not a bad bet at all. SpaceX is an interesting one, eh? I wouldn't write them off at all. Their Starhopper is looking really good. Their Raptor engine is just smoking along. Everything's looking so good for SpaceX. Like you would think that SpaceX was way behind the pace on this one, trying to build a new rocket. You know, it's such an early stage, but you know, if everything keeps going well for SpaceX, they don't have a lot of the same sort of limitations that NASA has. So they could definitely be the next ones. China's got a really slow, steady program that they've been working on for years, but you know, there's lots of advantages in their program. I don't know if I'd go with China or not. I mean, I've certainly got a lot of respect for China's space program, but I'm just like, they tend to be methodical, I think. I'd be surprised if China jumped that far ahead of their current plan to get people on the moon before everyone else. But I could be wrong. I mean, if it came down to it and they thought they had a shot to get there before the Americans, well, absolutely. I'm sure they would be all over it. So we just got, how many more pieces we've got there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or so pieces. In fact, they're probably just spare pieces anyway, aren't they?
Yeah.
Right, looks like we're just loading the would you call it? It's not really a capsule, is it? But whatever the spacecraft part is on top there with the payload in it. It's all coming together. No, oh, we've lost a piece. Don't worry, boys. It's all looking good. We're all happy. Anyway, I'm going to start to say my goodbyes and thank yous to everyone before we finish up here. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. We really appreciate you guys being part of the show. We'll go and see how our view count went tonight. It'd be nice if it could get up a little bit over the past 6 weeks, but we will see. Now, I reckon we are pretty much there by the looks of it, aren't we? Yeah! Well done, guys. Yeah. Nice work. That is very, very cool indeed. Hang on, I'm just going to come out there and just quickly grab this and see if we can get a closer view of it for the audience. So, shall I just take this one off? Okay, let's just have a look at that. There you go, folks. That's what it looks like. It's a very cool set. Absolutely awesome. And that took right about 2 episodes. So we will get an exact time on that. And get back to you and let you know who was the closest in your guesses. So, awesome. Well done. Thank you very much, everyone at home. Thanks, Floyd and Cullen. It's a stellar job. I didn't expect to get that done tonight. Thank you, everyone. And we will see you back here, same time next week. Bye-bye.
Well done.